If you're watching this video, most likely you have purchased or are thinking about purchasing the two retro rooms from Bentley House Minis. This is a 1/12 scale room box that features two rooms, and originally on my channel I was calling it the kitchen room box because I created it to house all of my 1930s kitchen kits. This kit comes with shapes cut from poster board, cardboard, mat board, and two acetate sheets that you can use as windows. We're going to get started with the cardboard. I highly suggest using hot glue to put some of the larger pieces together, and you may also want to have some Fabrifix glue, which is acetone based instead of water, and then tacky glue as well, although tacky glue is water based, so if you use it in large amounts it can cause your paper products to warp. Remember to have a sharp craft knife blade ready to help you cut out all of your shapes. Some of them can be popped out, but this does risk your cardboard being ripped, so just be careful of that. We're going to start with shape A1 and A2. These two pieces together are going to create the base of your room. In order to attach them together, I'm first using some hot glue on the pieces that connect, and then you also have a poster board piece that is the exact same shape, and this is going to help keep them together permanently. This is where I'm going to be using my acetone based glue because it does take a little bit longer for it to dry than hot glue, and it won't cause my paper to warp. If you do want to use tacky glue or something that is water based, make sure you put something heavy on top of these pieces while they dry completely, and this will help keep down any of the warping that you might see. However, if you do have some warping, once you start adding the walls, this will really help flatten out your pieces as you add more 90-degree angles. As a general rule for this entire kit, anytime you add poster board on top of cardboard, make sure to flip it over after it's dry and remove any overhanging poster board pieces. Next, we're going to glue the two pieces that are marked B together. This piece contains a window, which is that rectangle shape. If you would like to have the window in your kit, make sure to remove it. However, if you do not want to have the window, you can leave it in place and just glue it together to make sure that that window does not come out when you start adding your finishes. We are also going to glue together the two pieces that are marked C. Making both of the B pieces and the C pieces double thick is going to add strength to your kit. As I go through this building tutorial, I am going to be adding my finishes so that you can see when I suggest adding these in. I am adding my kitchen floor, which is only going to be this side of the base. The other side that I left blank is going to be covered up because it does have a step up area. Now that my B and C walls are dry, I can add the poster board on top. Make sure you are adding it onto the correct side so that the pieces are on the interior once it's put together. I am going to be covering the poster board pieces in my wallpaper first. This is going to make sure that if there is any warping on the wallpaper, that it happens on the poster board before I apply it to the cardboard. Once it's dry, I can use my Fabrifix glue, or you can use hot glue to put this down. Just make sure you keep your hot glue really thin, and if you use a water-based glue, make sure you put something heavy on top of it while it dries so that you limit that warping. Once I have all my wallpaper how I want it to look, I can go ahead and put it into my project. Piece B is going to be along the very far right wall and is going to line up along the edge of your base, and piece C is going to be your back wall that has an opening for this little nook area. I'm using hot glue to secure it down to my base, and I'm holding it in place while it dries. As you can see, the window is towards the back area. However, you can flip it around if you really want the window towards the front. I'm adding in piece C with more glue and allowing those to take hold. I'm also going to be adding some more hot glue to the outside of my walls once everything is in place. This is just going to add some more strength. So here is how the first two pieces are looking once they're attached to my base. And here's where I added the extra hot glue so that everything is very strong as it's going together. Next, we will be assembling pieces D. These are being glued together as well. D is the dividing wall between the two rooms, and the opening needs to go towards the front of the room box. This is how it's going to be glued in place. However, I'm not gluing it yet because piece D needs wallpaper added to both sides, so you should have two poster board pieces that fit this wall. One side is going to be for the dining room and one side is for the kitchen, so make sure that you apply your wallpaper accordingly based on what you want in each room. There is going to be another dividing wall that hits right to the right of this opening, so if you need to add a seam in your wallpaper, that is a great place to do it. Once everything's attached, I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place so that I have my center wall that is between the two rooms. I'm going to be referring to them as the dining room, which is on this side, where I added some glue to add support, and then I'm going to be calling the other side the kitchen because that is what I am creating my room to be. Next, we will be gluing together the two pieces marked E. This is going to be a decorative divider piece that is going into the room on the right, which for me is the kitchen room. While you could omit this wall if you wanted more of an open space, it does add a lot of support to this kit, so keep that in mind. I added poster board and wallpaper to both sides of this piece before I am gluing it in place. I am first dry fitting it. It needs to go right up against the right side of the opening in piece D, and I'm marking on my floor where the bottom part of this wall needs to hit. This is going to help me get it into place correctly the first time. I'm adding some slower drying glue, so not hot glue for this one, and I'm sliding it in place down the wall, being careful to keep an eye on where all of the pieces need to hit. Once it's in place, I'm going to hold it so that I know that it's taking hold, and you can see how it lines up right with the opening that's in piece D. The next two walls will be for the left side room, what I'm calling the dining room. It's going to be two pieces marked F and two pieces marked G. Make sure that you get them lined up with each other and glue the like pieces together. Lay your walls out on your work surface like this so you can get an idea of how they are going to go into your project. The thicker part of the wall is going to be the bottom and the thinner part of the wall is going to be the top. The two pieces of the wall will go together like this so you can get an idea of how you are going to put on your wallpaper. You also have poster board pieces that fit these, so I'm going to add that now with my coordinating dining room wallpaper that I am putting in the left side room. After it's put together, I am making sure that my thicker part of the wall is going towards the bottom. There is a step up in this area, so that is why the bottom part of the wall is a bit thicker. Once it's in place, I'm reinforcing it with some hot glue on the outside, and then I can add piece G. There's going to be a thicker side towards the bottom and a thicker side on the side of the window that's going towards the back of the wall. There's going to be a corner shelf in this area, and so that is why we need a lot of room in the corner to make sure we can get that shelf in place. After everything's glued in, I'm adding another line of hot glue around the base. This area is going to be covered up, so it's okay to add quite a bit of glue here to make sure that your walls are strong. So now that I have my dining room walls or my left side room walls up, we can build the floor that is stepped up from the right side room or the kitchen room. You're going to have 4 pieces that are marked H, and one of them needs to line up with the very front side of the room. This is going to block off this support area. The rest of them can be put in the area however you feel. I tried to evenly space them so that my floor had an even amount of support throughout. Once all of the H pieces are glued in place, you can take out piece I, which is going to cover this floor area. There is a bump out that is going to go inside of the opening in piece D, and you're just going to push that in place so that you have a floor that is a step above the other side. I did a dry fit first to make sure that everything was working, and then I added a slow drying glue and some weights on top of it to make sure that everything was pressed down and going to dry correctly. To create the stairs to this area, you're going to need 3 pieces marked J and 3 pieces marked K. You need to glue them together on top of each other so that you have a triple thickness, and then glue the 2 steps together so that you have a double step up to the upper platform. You can glue the steps together for now, but do not glue them in place in your project. We will do that later. Now you need 1 piece marked L and 4 pieces that are marked M. These M pieces are going to be glued to the back of piece L, centered on piece L, and these are going to be what creates your corner shelf that I was telling you about earlier. So you can kind of figure out where you want your shelves to be. They can be any place that you like. I am going to be adding a radio into my space, so that's why I put my shelf pieces where I wanted them, but you are going to be covering up the corrugation, or you can use a different material to create your shelves if you would like. But it's going to go right in the corner like so, which is going to create a really cool detail for this room. So for now, we're going to leave the shelf and the stairs unglued because we have something else we need to do to them later, and finish building our walls, which is going to be in this area. We're going to need one piece marked N, one piece marked O, two pieces that are marked P, and two pieces that are marked Q. This is going to create our nook. You're going to have one poster board piece that's going to cover piece N and one long poster piece that is going to help cover this area. So keep that off to the side for now. First, you're going to glue the two Q pieces together, making sure that they are aligned at the edges. And this piece is going to be glued above the nook opening, making sure that it fits perfectly above that opening and along the diagonal line of the roof. I will show you a better view of that in just a moment. You're also going to glue the two pieces marked P together. These are going to be the shorter side of this nook opening, and you're going to glue it along the edge of piece Q. Here you can see Q in place above the nook, and you can see the two pieces marked P on the side of piece Q and against the back wall. Piece O is a singular piece that's going to be glued on the other side. It is the taller side of the nook opening, and I'm just going to use some hot glue once it's in place to make sure it's reinforced and really strong. Before adding the back wall piece, we do need to create the long strip of poster board that is going to cover the entire inside of this nook opening. I covered it with my coordinating wallpaper for this area, and then I am going to dry fit it and cut it to the right size so that it fits perfectly in this area. I made sure I was pushing it into the rounded corners, and then I used a pencil to mark off where I need to cut the bottom of this piece. If you do plan to put in baseboards later in your design, you don't have to be too exact, but I do find it was pretty easy to mark off and cut the right size. So I'm adding this carefully in with some slower drying glue and pushing it into the corners. There is going to be trim that you can add later on, so if it doesn't hit the wall exactly right, it is okay. You can see I have a few gaps there. That is going to be covered up later. Here you can see how it looks out the back. And now I can add my back panel piece in place. It has wallpaper put onto it. I'm going to add my glue and then push it into place, which is going to complete my nook in the back of this right side or kitchen area. Now we can jump back over to the stairs and the shelves. The shelves are going to require poster board pieces that match their shapes, and then also the poster board strips that were provided in your kit. There are going to be a few strips that are specifically 3 cardboard pieces thick. These are the ones you're going to need to cut out to cover your stair edges. They're going to cover all the way around, but you are going to have a blank top to your stairs, and you can add any finish to the top of your stairs that you would like. In my example, I'm going to be adding wood later on when I complete the entire room. There are also strips that are 1 cardboard thickness and some that are 2 cardboard thicknesses. You can cut out the correct thickness and then add them to the edges of your shelf. These are also going to be what covers up the edge of all the corrugation around the side of your project and then also inside the window area, which is going to be really important for our next steps. Once I have the inside corrugation covered up on my shelf, I can add my poster board piece, and this is how it's looking before I glue it into place. You're also going to want to cover the inside edges of your windows. As I said, that's going to be important for the next step, which is going to be creating our windows. All the pieces for the left room, or the dining room in my case, are going to be marked with the number 1. You're going to have 4 frames and 4 individual pieces for each window, and there are 2 total windows in this room. You're also going to need to pull out one of the acetate pieces that was provided in your kit. Begin by lining two of the frames up vertically next to each other. You're going to glue that onto the acetate, and once it's dry, cut the acetate from around the edges. Then you can take that piece and turn it over, and you are going to glue the other two frames on the back side, which is going to create a mirror image. This is going to be glued down, and let that dry as well. Once those pieces are dry, you have the interior of your window frame. I'm going to go ahead and paint my piece because it is much easier to paint it in my hand before I put it into the wall. Once the paint is dry, I'm going to insert it into the opening, adding some glue along the edge, making sure that everything is secure. It should fit rather snug, but if you find it is too snug, then you can cut down the edges or sand down the edges a bit. Then you're going to add your individual frame pieces around the inside of the window, and you have a completed window. Follow the same steps for the other window as well. All of the pieces that are marked with the number 3 are going to be the frame that goes around your shelf opening, or the corner shelf surround. The trim is cut in 3 pieces, and the reason for this is so that you can make sure it fits perfectly around your shelf specifically. The first step is to glue on one of the edge pieces, and then before you glue on the second piece, dry fit it to make sure that it matches, and if you need to make it a little bit smaller to cover up those edges, you can trim off little bits of the edge until it fits just right. Glue it in place, and then you can follow the same steps for the bottom edge, and then you have the perfect size trim for your shelf. You need to follow the same exact steps for every single opening. All of the openings have the trim in multiple pieces so you can get them to be the perfect size based on how you put your piece together. Instead of wallpaper, I'm going to be painting my shelf, and I'm using multiple thin layers of acrylic paint so that my poster board does not warp. Then I can add glue, push it into place, and allow it to dry in the corner of my room. If you'd like, you can put something heavy up against it to make sure it stays in place while it dries. There is only one window for the right side room, or for me, the kitchen room, and that is going to be marked with the number 2. It's going to be 4 frames and 4 individual pieces. You need to put them vertically together so that the long sides touch each other, and glue them down to your piece of acetate. Glue it so that they're up next to each other, and then once it's dry, remove the pieces and install it just like the other window that was in the other side room. Now we can move on to adding all of the trim. All of the pieces marked 4 are going to be for the nook at the back of the right room. All of the pieces marked with the number 6 are going to be for the arch support in the right room. And all the pieces marked with a number 5 are going to go on the wall that divides the right and left room. Here you can see how I have inserted these. I painted them before I glued them into place, which made it a little bit easier. And you will have to cut down the trim for the dividing wall that goes where the stairs are quite a bit. Here you can see how I cut mine down, but you can choose to do it any way you like. To create the ceiling and roof for the left side room, you're going to need 2 pieces marked R and 1 piece marked F. You're going to line up the 2 pieces that are marked R. They are not symmetrical, so make sure that you line them up so that they match. And then you're going to glue piece S on top. So you're going to have a double thick reveal that goes on the inside of your ceiling. Make sure to dry fit it to make sure that you understand how the roof works. The edge towards the front of the room is going to be the thinner side so that you have room for the angled shelf in the back. Before gluing it in place, I'm going to use one of the double thick poster board pieces to go around the inside edge of this reveal. This was just a little ceiling detail that matches the archways that gives it more of that retro look. You can add some sort of light fixture up here if you're going to make it a very fancy room. Here's how it looks once the poster board is inserted. All of the pieces marked with a number 8 are the left room ceiling trim. This is going to go around your opening. It just gives it that nice finished look. Just like every other piece of trim, you're going to match it up, do a dry fit, and if it doesn't fit quite right, cut off a little sliver until it fits perfectly around your poster board. so that you have a nicely trimmed reveal in your ceiling. Remember to flip it so that the skinny edge is towards the front. This gives room for your shelf. Now we're going to move on to the ceiling and roof for the right rooms, which is made from one piece which is marked T. It has a cutout for the left room ceiling, so it fits snugly against it, as you see here. There are two large skylights in the right room, and if you would like to create windows for them, you're going to cut out all the pieces that are marked 7 from your mat board sheets. You are probably going to need your second piece of acetate for these windows and a grid to put underneath the acetate so that you can get these windows straight. I'm adding them with 90-degree angles so that I have 2 long pieces and 2 short pieces, making a single rectangle. I'm going to make 2 of these, which is going to cover my 2 skylights. You can put the frames on the inside or the outside of the skylight depending on how you want your piece to look. I also covered the inside of my cardboard with some of the single thick poster board to cover up the corrugation. So this is how my skylight is looking on my roof. For the kitchen I was creating with this kit during this tutorial, I decided not to use the roof pieces. I am going to take them off so that all of my pieces can be displayed within, and I'm going to show you an alternative way to finish this room so that the top part of this room box is open. Using some of the poster board strips that are the same width as 2 pieces of cardboard, I'm covering up the top of my walls, and then I use some of my excess poster board to cover up the opening above my shelf and the nook at the back of the room. These pieces are going to be painted the same color as my trim. I'm also going to show you a tip for covering up wallpaper. If you do end up having gaps between your poster board pieces, you can cut a very small strip, fold it in half, and glue it into the corners. It may stick out at first when you first glue them in, but once you add all your furniture and finishings, no one will notice. You can see I did this one here, and it made a really nice transition from my support wall to the exterior wall. Here's a look at my final room box. You can see how I finished everything. I put in some baseboards around the bottom of the floor. I added some carpet that folds over the front of this room that's kind of disguising the edge of the step up. And then I added a few little pieces to the top of my stairs, and this is my finished room. I really like how it came out, and I'm really glad I kept the roof pieces off. However, I do have a sample to show you where I do not have any of my own finishes, so you can see how it looks completely empty and with the roof pieces attached. Here is a sample room that is built without any of the finishes, and you can see what comes with the kit. So if you built this from start to finish and didn't add any of the wallpaper or paint along the way, this is what you would get. This also gives you a good look at how the roof pieces look once they are glued in place permanently. I also used some more of the poster board strips to go around the outside, but once you add your outside exterior finishes, you wouldn't be able to see that anyway. Even though I initially created this room to house all of my kitchen and dining room items, it can be so much more than a kitchen. I have put in some other dollhouse furniture so you can see the scale of this room in case you wanted to turn it into something else. I put in a couple different variations so you could see how items fit in these areas. If you're interested in checking out this kit, it is in my store currently, bentleyhouseminis.com. It is made from cardboard, poster board. It's easy to cut, change, and make it your own. If you want to check it out, I will leave a link to this kit in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching and for your support of Bentley House Minis. Bye!